We've been buried in them and the reality of making them real for so long that it's easy to forget sometimes just what a massive set of regulation changes these 2022 rules represent. I've been working in the sport for over 30 years and they dwarf anything else I've ever seen. I suspect if I were to dig out Wikipedia and go through every season of the sport that there's ever been, there would be nothing to match the scale of the change that comes with 2022. The rule set is not only enormous, the regulations are about twice the size of what's preceded them, but they're all almost entirely different from what came before them. And that has meant that we've had to reinvent the car tip to toe. Everywhere you look, it's completely new. Not just new as in new parts, but new as in completely new philosophy. A completely different aerodynamic package, different brakes, different wheels, crucially different tyres. And even the engine, one of the things that is less touched by the regulations than many, even there, the engine has to be, or the power unit has to be prepared so that it can be frozen for 3 years. All the goodness that you can possibly pack into it has to be packed into it now or forever hold your peace, because after that, changes will be very, very difficult to make real. So it has been incredibly hard, very challenging and long to get our heads around this and to try to figure out what the best response is to these regulations and where the opportunity is to be found in order to put a car on the track in a few short weeks from now that gives us a chance of being competitive right from the beginning. This new rule set has been quite a long time in the making. It was first proposed as a set of objectives way back in 2017, I think, when Ross Brawn, the technical director of Liberty back in the day, were to have cars that would be capable of closer racing from the front of the grid to the back of the grid. So instead of the 2 to 3 seconds that divide the front from the back today, they hoped for a much closer grid. Often suggested that maybe compressing it all into 1 second would be a more exciting formula than the one we've been used to. But not just compressed front to back, but also a format of car that would allow the cars to race more effectively with one another on the track and to permit an easier and more natural form of overtaking than we've been used to in Formula One in recent seasons. And then finally, for those cars to be more affordable for all the teams in the grid, whatever budget level. Those were the sort of headline objectives of this regulation. And I guess those are the reasons why this big change. They wanted to simplify aspects of the sport from a technical perspective so that teams of a wider range of budget levels could have a sort of equal opportunity at those regulations. And the reason that the entire regulation set on the aerodynamic side has been so substantially revamped was to try to create an aerodynamic configuration that would slip through the air in a less messy fashion, allowing a car that follows another car to be less disturbed by having that car in front of it. And that's not an easy nut to crack, certainly not easy to tweak the existing regulation set to try to deliver that. And so there was a decision taken by Liberty and by the FIA that they would have a wholesale reworking of the regulations to try to create that configuration. That's sort of why we're here. That's why this regulation is so big and so different to everything that preceded it. Whether or not those objectives will be realized in this new formula, well, that's a very different question. And time will tell. Time will tell. They are very ticklish problems and not at all easy to solve via technical regulation. It's an interesting experience being a team member at a time of great change like this for the sport, because as well as being members of a team, we're fans of the sport. All of us love Formula One. We wouldn't have got into it if we didn't. And so these high-level objectives are ones that that of course we share. We love the idea of close racing. We love the idea of cars being able to duke it out with one another, hammer and tongs every track in a way that has completely compelling viewing for all of us. As fans, all of us want that. But as team members and as teammates to each other, we just want one thing. We want a competitive car, a car that will be at the front of that gaggle of fighting cars. And yeah, if the racing's great behind us, brilliant, but we only want to be at the front of it. And that will be true for every team on the grid. So we approach a regulation set like this, not with a view of whether or not it will deliver on its objective. We just take the regulations as they're written and try to figure out how to make the car as fast as we possibly can. And when the regulations change in such large measure as these ones, well then we approach that with all the fun and relish that challenge deserves, because our job is to look for technical opportunity in regulations and then use our combined wit and skill and all the effort that we make collectively to try to find a configuration of car that will be better than anyone else's approach to it. And when everything is as new as this, then everywhere you look in that regulation set, twice as thick as the old one, there's opportunity. There's opportunity and of course there's jeopardy. And we try to pick our way through the potential minefield and picking up all the little boxes of treasure that may be set in amongst the landmines to end up with a car that we hope will see us pitching at the front of the grid. It's not unique to Mercedes to be excited about a regulation set, but it is something I can speak of with the personal experience of having been a part of this team, that we do love it when new regulations come along. We see it as an opportunity to show that we haven't just been lucky over the years. We haven't merely stumbled into a Formula. It's often talked about as the turbo hybrid era, as if we sort of stumbled into some God-given right to have been dominant all these last seasons. We see every single regulation change as an opportunity to pit our wits against them and see whether we actually deserve still to be competitive, to see whether or not we can show afresh that we've understood the physics behind the car, that we've tried to translate that into designs and concepts that we then realise in manufacturing and then deliver to the track in a way that allows us to be competitive once more. All of us give our working lives to this sport and quite a lot more besides, and the validation of knowing that you can pick up a set of regulations like this and work with them. When that's realised, it's a brilliant feeling, and it makes all the hard work, and there is a measure of sacrifice to it as well. It makes all of that entirely worthwhile. You get way more payback from feeling like you've done a good job than you do suffering from all the effort that went into providing that good job. So this team does have a culture that treats such opportunity with excitement and pleasure, and a chance to demonstrate to ourselves that we hopefully are not bad at doing racing cars. And putting my fan's hat on and trying to anticipate what we can expect when the racing starts, well, that is a difficult thing to anticipate in terms of what the pecking order will be. It's a difficult thing to anticipate in terms of exactly how everything will play out, but it's a brilliantly exciting thing to contemplate, precisely because none of us know. One of the things that is the essence of sport is not knowing. We, all of us, have done our level best. I'm talking about everyone in our team, everyone in every other team will have done our level best to try to find a design and an approach that will be a happy match to this new regulation set. And we'll all get to find out together at the start of this season, in the races that unfold from there, exactly how that shakes out. I would imagine, given that the cars are so new and so different, that one or two cars on the grid will have got it really badly wrong, and that they will have a terribly painful year. I would imagine that all of us, to some degree, will have left things on the table that we just didn't anticipate, and we will look at other cars and think, oh, why didn't we think of that? And then we'll be scrabbling around to try and get that idea onto our car as fast as possible so that we can claw our way from whatever position we land in that first race, so that we can claw our way forwards, or if we're lucky enough to be in front, to keep the attacking wolves behind us. It's going to be quite a rush, and definitely something that's going to keep us all from having too much sleep for the whole of the season.